All right, it's a little bit bittersweet that summer's coming to a close, but maybe getting into the routine again, organizing your house, getting some new sheets for your bed. I mean, maybe it's time to start fresh, right? New school year, new look, better organization. Wayfair has amazing items for you to refresh your workspace, maybe to get a new desk for your kid. I'll tell you, buying stuff for your kid feels pretty good. My son just bought his first house, and as a housewarming gift, I'm going to let him pick out a Wayfair standing lamp. That's what they need. There are so many to choose from. The prices are incredible. If he orders it, the delivery is going to be so fast. The process is so easy. It is convenient to use Wayfair to get everything your home needs this season. It's got a huge selection of outdoor items and indoor items. Get organized, refreshed, and back to routine for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All of those things involve struggle, involve risk. And as soon as we start removing that, and as soon as we start saying, my child should not experience any struggle, you are getting in the way of them being able to say, well, this is a struggle, but it's not dangerous. This feels uncomfortable, but it's not a trauma. This is hard, but there's payoff.
Welcome to Season 8 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we talk about managing worry, anxiety, and all the other emotions too.
I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, author, speaker, and mom. I've been a therapist for 35 years, and I'm still in the trenches with families, helping them navigate daily struggles and big problems. Parenting can be a flusterclux, but we tackle the serious stuff without being too serious.
I'm Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law and co-host, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Ed, the producer of Flusterclux.
And my brother.
And my husband.
Anxiety is a family problem with a family solution.
Hi, Lynn.
Hey, Ed.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Just brought our son to his second day of camp.
Yeah.
And day one went well.
Oh, good. That's always good.
Yeah, this is a little more. Camp might be a word that he doesn't love because he's 14, but he's learning to play golf.
Oh, that's good.
But he enjoyed it. A big improvement over when I picked him up. He was probably 6 or 7. Hey, buddy, how was it? I didn't like it at all. Which is what every parent wants to hear.
Yeah, right.
This current iteration is a much bigger hit.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, maturity happens, right?
Absolutely.
I know. Isn't that the worst when you drop them off? I think I've told this before, but when my son started middle school and he went to the first day, which wasn't easy to get him to the first day. And then he was like, okay, well, I tried it. It's not going to work for me. I'm not. We were like, somehow you were under the impression that this was optional. Yeah. Oh, boy.
So you have a busy fall coming up.
I do. So let me just plug some trainings here quickly. I've been posting this. It's on my website, lynnlyons.com. I've got 2 professional trainings, September 18th and September 25th coming up. 18th is elementary school focus. 25th is teen focus, anxiety and depression. So there are, at the time of this recording, there are spots available, but these trainings have historically sold out. So if you want to come, hop on. You can go to lynnlyons.com. All the information is there. And there's a parenting webinar happening too in September for parents of teens and teens themselves. So all the information's on my website.
So this time of year, our episodes are coming out just around the start of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk today about something that's been on your mind, specifically the notion of struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that truly mean for a young person to struggle, and what does it not mean?
Right. And so I go through my day and I look at people that are posting things, and sometimes I venture in with some trepidation into Facebook groups and look at what's going on out there. And a post caught my eye that said that if a school says, or if anyone says that you should allow your child to struggle, that means you're actually traumatizing them. And I think there really needs to be a clear differentiation between the concept of struggle and trauma. And I actually think it's really, really harmful for kids to remove the opportunity to get in the way of the concept of productive struggle. Struggle is part of learning. I am not the only one who says this. This is not a new concept for people who are in education, for people that are in therapy, for OTs, for PTs, for speech and language people. It's really, really important. But the more that I see this language that struggle equals trauma, the more concerned I become, because it creates a lot of difficulties for kids. And particularly with anxiety, which is what I deal with, it is not the same thing at all. So I want to differentiate. People don't particularly like it when this is said, but I think it needs to be said. Not everything is trauma. And the more that we use the word trauma to describe everything, the less the word means. I'll just give you a little example. Several years ago, a mom called and left a message for me. And she said on the message, I need to speak with you right away. My child has experienced a real trauma and I need help. So I was like, ooh, geez. So I called her back, and the trauma was, in her definition, that the bus driver had yelled at the children and her child felt like the bus driver was mean and was refusing to get on the bus. And she wanted me to join with her to go after the school. And I said to her, not knowing her, I said to her, if there's an issue with the bus and there's an issue with the bus driver, if you're talking to the school about this and you go in saying your child was traumatized, they're going to stop listening to you, which can feel kind of hard for parents to hear.
Because in this instance, it was not a truly traumatic thing, so the school would just kind of roll their eyes.
Correct. You lose your credibility, and I think that's what happens, is that if we make everything trauma, was this child upset that the bus driver yelled? Was the bus driver a little gruff? Probably. But how do we solve that problem? And this goes back to the episode we did a little while ago where we had those 3 categories, is that when something happens, is this an emergency? Is this a problem to be solved? Or are you itching for a fight? And when I hear people conflate allowing a child to struggle with that means that people are traumatizing your child, it concerns me that we've lost the ability to build skills and to solve a problem, because you're going to lose track of what we're doing here. It's going to become this fight, or it's become this battle, and you're not going to be working together.
And one of the things that's great about talking to you on these matters is that your opinion on these comes from decades of interacting with young people who are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not just someone who said, kids today, you're really coming at it from an experience of, this is really holding children back from developing, from reaching out in the world. So it's not just a woman on the edge of 60 shaking her fist at the kids on her lawn.
Excuse me?
On the edge.
Very close to the edge. Very, very close to the edge.
But it comes from a genuine sense of you're witnessing firsthand
Correct.
the impact of children who are not allowed to struggle.
Struggle. Right, right. And it goes way back that looking at things like window of tolerance, we hear that term, the zone of proximal development.
Explain those.
So window of tolerance is a term that's used in talking about trauma. And Dan Siegel uses this term. If you know about Dan Siegel, he wrote The Whole Brain Child, as well as many other books. Just a very, very great educator and spokesperson for the brain and parenting. Window of tolerance means that when kids are traumatized, when we're talking about kids that have gone through a history of trauma, their ability to tolerate things is smaller. So they have a really hard time with emotional regulation. And our goal is to expand that window of tolerance so they can move through the world without coming undone. So we're trying to expand that. The zone of proximal development is a far older term. And this guy talked about it, I believe in the 30s. I can check that, but I believe it's a term from way, way, way back, where we're talking about when kids are moving toward a new developmental milestone, when they're trying to increase a skill. They're making a little bit of a developmental leap, that it is okay to push them outside of their current learning. And what it really means in sort of today's terms is building frustration tolerance. So this psychologist talked about how do we offer kids things or put kids into situations or give them new skills that will make them uncomfortable as they learn them. So that's the frustration. And if we talk about anxiety, and if we talk about one of the skills that kids don't have, and one of the skills that parents really need to learn is being able to tolerate distress. And this struggle, we talk about being on the struggle bus, this struggle is a part of learning. So you don't go from not knowing how to do something to then knowing how to do something without having some struggle in between. You're a musician. Can you think of a time when you were learning? Because I know you have all these musical skills. What was the biggest struggle? What was a struggle, a frustration that you felt?
I think when I was singing with my voice teacher of many years, he was very reticent in his praise, not in a dismissive way, but if I did a good job, I would get a nod. It was a banner session if I got a okay. And that was hard. There were times when I would leave and I would, slap the steering wheel, and it was frustrating. But I've always told people that experience of grinding through that process of kind of stumbling and then getting back up, but then getting slightly better and then maybe taking a step back was incredibly helpful as I got older and was in a job, even in relationships with people where you have to appreciate that there is a undertow sometimes that's challenging in any relationship.
A struggle, a discomfort.
A struggle. Yeah. And the ability to get past that and get through that, very helpful for other elements of life, and gives you also, I think, an important element is the willingness to then step out and try something totally different.
Mm-hmm. Right. And one of the things, maybe as your son is coming home from camp this time, compared to when he was little, is that he's had the opportunity to struggle. He's had the opportunity to practice. And maybe at his golf camp, everything didn't go perfectly. It wasn't like he hit a hole in one. It wasn't like every putt went in. It wasn't like he knew how to use the sand wedge. I don't know much about golf, so I'm sort of making stuff up. But his enjoyment of the camp wasn't based on everything going perfectly. And that would be an interesting question to ask him. What felt hard? Like, what did you struggle with during camp versus whether or not it went perfectly? And if he came home to you and said, oh, I really like the putting part, but oh my gosh, I cannot drive the ball as far as all the other kids. And if he said to you, and the instructor told me that I had the shortest drive of everybody, and that then you said, oh my God, that instructor traumatized you. And you went to the camp director and said, my kid shouldn't be told that he had the shortest drive. All of that gives the message to kids that struggle is intolerable, that they shouldn't feel that way, that it's damaging, which is really the big thing, is that when we equate struggle with trauma, we're saying it's damaging because trauma is damaging. And giving kids the opportunity to feel uncomfortable like you did in front of your voice teacher. I cannot emphasize enough that a parent's ability to lovingly support their child through struggle, through frustration, is one of the best gifts that you can give, because it sets them up for all sorts of success or interactions or relationships or challenges or risks later on in life.
What might be one of the social challenges that a child might experience as they age if they are totally uncomfortable with struggle?
Well, in a very simple way, when you are interacting with other kids and you feel frustrated, maybe because the game didn't go your way or because somebody is better at something than you are, If you are the child who can't tolerate that, you quit, you isolate, you get angry at other kids, you blame. We've talked a lot about blaming on this podcast as a really sort of corrosive way of interacting. The child that cannot tolerate any frustration oftentimes gets left behind. So just take the example of riding bikes, which I actually saw recently that kids aren't riding bikes very often. But if we take the example of riding bikes and what happens when a child doesn't have any frustration tolerance to ride a bike, okay, think about that for a minute. Think about that outcome. Give it a little thought, and we'll come back and we'll walk through it. So the summer's winding down, and it's time to think about refreshing your wardrobe. For me, I start traveling again, so I'm looking for staple pieces for the season ahead. Quince nails it with luxe essentials that feel effortless and look polished. I need things that are easy. I need things that are reasonably priced, and I need things that travel well so that I look my best when I arrive, when I'm on stage. It's important to have quality and comfort and good, solid pricing. Think cashmere sweaters. Think cotton sweaters starting at just $40. I have ordered a few silk tops that will be so versatile and so easy for me to wear. They're washable. The best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. For your next trip, for your next gig, like me, for your next fun event, just for your next season in life, go with Quince. Elevate your fall wardrobe essentials with Quince. Go to quince.com/fluster for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/fluster to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/fluster. Do you have a tough time tracking where your money goes? It's hard. We've got so many different places to spend money now. It could be on your streaming apps. It could be buying coffee. It could be paying attention to all the different bills that you have to pay, the expenses for your kids. It's confusing. Finances can be messy. Monarch Money acts like your own personal CFO, gives you visibility and control so you can pay attention to where your money is going, and gives you complete financial command for your accounts, your investments, and your goals. Did you know that financial stress is one of the top reasons relationships fall apart, other than in-laws? Monarch Money makes conversations easier. You can track shared and individual accounts. You can set goals together. You can keep money check-ins drama-free. Plus, you can even share access with a financial advisor or a tax pro at no extra cost. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code FLUSTER at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code FLUSTER. I love summer. I just love summer. I love being outdoors. I love being active. And I also love how easy it is to enjoy nutritious meals. Green Chef is the way to make it happen. Green Chef makes it easy to spend less time in the kitchen so that you have more time to enjoy the outdoors without sacrificing delicious, wholesome, nutritious foods. Green Chef's real, clean ingredients help you build lasting, healthy habits without the hassle. There are salads ready in just 5 minutes. There are protein-filled breakfasts. There are delicious meals that take less than 3 minutes to cook. I love the Cashew Crunch spinach salad. It was fantastic. I also am going to continue having the lemon, cucumber, and mint quinoa salad. Fabulous. My husband had the pork fillet with lemon dill sauce. He'll definitely have that again. So delicious and so easy. Make this summer your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50fluster and use code 50fluster to get 50% off your first month. Then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50fluster at greenchef.com/50fluster. Okay, we're back. Okay, so Ed, what would you predict I'm going to say about there's a child who doesn't know how to struggle, has very low frustration tolerance, my example of learning how to ride a bike and how that impacts this child socially, what would you predict I'm going to say?
It will ultimately shrink his or her world.
Right. Yep. Because everybody else is going to hop on their bike. Everybody else is going to go off. If you're lucky enough to live in a neighborhood where kids are riding their bikes around and your child doesn't learn how to ride a bike, I'm just giving this as an example of a skill, doesn't learn how to ride a bike because they can't tolerate the process of learning how to ride a bike. Because you're going to fall down. It's not going to go well. It's going to be a process. You start not knowing how to ride a bike, you finish knowing how to ride a bike.
It might even be a little embarrassing.
That's right.
If other children witness you as you're at your first days of trying to learn.
That's right. And that also actually is another really important opportunity for your other kids or the other kids in the group to provide support and empathy and encouragement. So if your 6-year-old is learning how to ride a bike and there's a 10-year-old in the neighborhood, that 10-year-old says, hey, you know what? I was just like you when I was 6. I didn't know how to do this either. And if we take that away from kids, if we don't give them that opportunity to both be a part of that and to witness that process, it's going to impact their willingness to step in.
May I say there's also a lot of value in being able to say to other people in your life, I'm struggling.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Can you help me with this? And that makes the world seem slightly less overwhelming and scary if you feel comfortable in extending yourself to others and say, I'm struggling with this. And so it's important not to have the notion of struggling with something also be a source of shame.
Right.
Or, as you stated, a great danger and a problem, because that could incline someone to be like, well, I can't speak about this. I can't even address it because
I'm so embarrassed. Yeah. Really, when we're talking about letting kids struggle, we want kids to experience struggle. We want them to witness other people struggling. We want them to see us struggling because that's how we learn. And when we take that away from kids, when we go into a school and say, my child should not struggle, when we address another parent or another family member and say, how dare you allow my child to struggle, we are getting in the way of so many important skills. So one of the missing skills that we see in anxious families is the ability to assess reasonable risk. And with risk comes struggle. Riding a bike, you going into your voice lesson, your son learning how to do all sorts of things. You've got another child who's in the process of getting her driver's license. All of those things involve struggle, involve risk. And as soon as we start removing that, and as soon as we start saying, my child should not experience any struggle, you are getting in the way of them being able to say, well, this is a struggle, but it's not dangerous. This feels uncomfortable, but it's not a trauma. This is hard, but there's payoff. The other really important skill that we've probably talked about before, but just is worth highlighting, is what we call sequencing. And that's the ability to go through the steps of beginning, middle, and end. This is something that gets in the way when kids have ADHD. It's an executive functioning issue, being able to plan, being able to move through something. It gets in the way when kids have anxiety because they jump to the end and think, I'll never be able to do that without being able to recognize the steps that you go through. If you think about all of the things as an adult that you do, that I do, that people listening do, there are sequences that we go through. There are steps that we take, and we hit struggle very often as we're moving through those sequences, even with something that we know how to do. I know how to write. I'm a good writer, but man, oh man, is there a period of struggle in every writing project I've ever done.
Sure. And it's greatly informative too. Struggle. Think about an inventor.
Yeah.
Who struggles daily, and those struggles, those frustrations, those perceptions that X would be easy, but it's actually very hard, inform the greater creation that ultimately is invented.
Yeah. And it is interesting because if you listen to artists when they're talking about what they create, every once in a while you'll hear their sort of difference in struggle, like watching the Beatles. Remember that Beatles documentary of all that footage and watching them struggle, watching Paul McCartney sit there and put that song together, which is pretty amazing. If you haven't watched that, it's pretty awesome. And sometimes you'll hear a songwriter say, "It just came to me." Like I woke up and the song was there. And other times they'll say, well, I was working on this song for 5 years and there were bits and pieces and I threw this out and I brought this back in. It doesn't always go in a linear fashion. And what we want to say to kids, particularly kids that tend to be anxious, is that it is normal to struggle, that it's okay to struggle, that we want to allow you to struggle because that's how we get from not knowing to knowing. And using that language with kids over and over and over again is really, really helpful. You can be loving and supportive. You're not being dismissive. You're not being harsh. You know, your voice teacher was pretty harsh, right? He would dole out a little compliment every once in a while. But you can say to your kids, I get that this is hard and we're going to push through the struggle. It's worth it.
Interestingly, my voice teacher, he was from Russia and he left Russia when he was about 40. So he grew up there and he told me an interesting story about his time in conservatory, which was that the young people who came into the conservatory at, say, 18, 19, who had the most pure natural talent, were never the ones that were singing on the stage of the Kirov Opera 10 years later. And he said that the reason being is that they did not have to struggle. And that you will have to inevitably, as a singer, sing with a cold, sing with a bad back. And that resilience that was built over time and not being God's gift to singing, but slowly developing yourself gave the people the resilience to be the greatest professionals at a very complicated job. We're from New England. Tom Brady was the 199th pick in the 2000 NFL draft. He was mocked for being skinny, for not having a cannon of an arm. And you look what he achieved. He struggled. He was number 4 on the Patriots quarterback chart, and he struggled and developed.
Yeah. Well, it was funny as you were talking about what your teacher said. I was like, oh, he's going to bring up Tom Brady. And if he doesn't, I will. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned the podcast before, How I Built This, which is a great podcast that talks about how people created a business. You know, the founder of Spanx and the founder of Cliff Bar, and there is struggle. There's an interesting question that the host asks at the end. He says, is your success, do you think you got here, was it based more on luck or hard work? And generally, the people say, well, there was definitely some luck. Like I was in the right place at the right time. I had this idea at a time when the culture was looking for this idea. I found this niche. But they also say, and then I took that opportunity and I struggled through it. And I think that if you can talk to your kids in that way, if we can normalize the struggle, if we can recognize that there are skills that they have to build. If you listen to the In Session episode that we did just recently with Sam and Vincent talking about their little girl, Jody, the goal was not to give her everything that she wanted. The goal was not to try and find playmates that would cooperate with her rigidity, but to allow her to feel uncomfortable. What struck me about that session, and the parents were so lovely and so honest, is that when they were playing with her, they said, they made sure to do exactly what she wanted because they didn't want any friction. And her inability to tolerate friction, which is just like what you're talking about with the Russian opera, the friction of having a cold, the friction of having a bad back, the friction of having a fellow cast member, but the friction of having a colleague, the friction of having a teacher, the friction of having a director that you don't quite click with. All of that is really important. Yeah. The ability to tolerate distress comes up over and over and over again.
And on How I Built This, I think all of those successful entrepreneurs would say, I was not encouraged to live a life devoid of struggle as a child.
Yeah. and they didn't witness a life devoid of struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It was pointed out to them. And I think that if you are looking for ways to help develop this in your kids, actually, maybe we should take a break and then come back and I'll talk specifically about what parents can do.
Great.
Okay. Hey, you know what I'm wearing right now? My Bombas. I love these socks. I just ordered 6 additional pairs, so I've got probably 10 pairs now. I wear them all the time. I wear them when I hike. I wear them when I walk. I wear them to the gym. They are comfortable and they get the job done. If you are a runner, if you are a hiker, you know what a blister can do to your hike. You know how it can just absolutely debilitate you. Having comfortable socks makes a difference. If you are looking for head to toe comfort, they don't stop at socks either. They've got white t-shirts that you barely have to break in, waterproof slides, buttery, soft, sweat wicking underwear that feels barely there. Best of all, Bombas don't just feel good, they do good. One purchase equals one donated to someone who needs it. That's pretty cool. You can also order Bombas abroad now. That's right. Along with the US, they now ship internationally. So head to bombas.com and use code AUDIO for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com, code AUDIO at checkout. Bombas.com and use code AUDIO. I love these socks. You will too. You know, growing up, I was pretty lucky. My dad worked in a bank and my mom was really smart about money. We talked about money a lot, and I learned from an early age what saving was, what spending was, how to budget. And I really think that it's great for kids to have this information early on. I taught my kids about money, and you should teach your kids about money and let them practice. With Acorns Early, your kids can learn their money lessons early and often. Acorns Early is the smart debit card and money app that grows kids' money skills as they grow up. You can start with in-app chores tracker and teach your kids the value of $1. Then let your kids set their own savings goals and start building healthy money habits early. Just like I did. Ready to teach your kids the smart way to earn, save, and spend? Get your first month on us when you head to acornsearly.com/fluster or download the Acorns Early app. That's 1 month free when you sign up at acornsearly.com/fluster. Acorns Early Card is issued by Community Federal Savings Bank, member FDIC, pursuant to license by MasterCard International. Free trial for new subscribers only. Subscription fee starting from $5 per month unless canceled. Terms apply at acorns.com/earlyterms.
At Sierra, you'll always find apparel, footwear, and gear for 20 to 60% less than department and specialty store prices. But right now, it's clearance time, so you can save even more on everything you need to get active and outside. Visit your local Sierra store today.
Okay, so now back to the show. Okay, so let's talk specifics, Ed. I got a nice comment from somebody recently that said that one of the things they appreciate is that I tell people what to say.
Yeah.
And which I will give props to my mentor, Michael, as I often do. One of the things that I loved about his teaching was that when you said, well, I'm not sure what to do in this situation, he wouldn't say, well, what do you think you should do? Which is just annoying. He would say, well, here, try this. I very much appreciate having concrete things to say and do. So let's talk about that.
Yes, because many parents listening to this will probably resonate with what you're saying, but also feel my child is one who avoids struggle at present, and shifting this ocean liner a few degrees to the west is going to be a big fight.
That's right. Yeah, you're going to hit some friction. And the other thing, too, that I want to acknowledge is that there are parents who are listening who went through enormous struggle and even trauma, and they're very conscious of not putting their kids through what they went through. And so when we're talking about struggle, we're talking about allowing your child to struggle in a supportive environment, not saying you're on your own, not saying, well, you got to figure this out. Being able to be there, standing with them, standing next to them while they're struggling is different than being left alone, feeling as if you don't have teaching and support, which probably with your voice teacher, as hard as he was standing right there with you, giving you information and supporting you. He wasn't saying, well, if you can't do it, then you can't do it.
That's the skill of differentiation that parents need to have, that they are not overestimating or sensing that it's a traumatizing event for their child. So we have to check ourselves
Right.
in that respect as parents sometimes.
Right. Could I ask you something? When your son came home when he was little and he came home from that camp and he said, I don't like anything about it. Did he go back?
Yes, he did actually. So it was just a local day camp.
Yeah.
And I think it was only like a 5-day session. There was some slight bribing involved. And you're not opposed to a slight bribe.
I'm not opposed to a slight bribe. Yeah.
We had told him that if he does go back and completes the day, then we stop at the Dunkin' across the street.
Oh, okay.
And he gets a chocolate frosted donut.
Nice.
And he was up for that. And I would say we were doing all of this in some kind of grand plan. But I do think that Robin and I felt that if we say to him, we're very sorry that the camp sucked, you can quit and stay home, that wasn't offering him the ability to try and turn it around himself, to maybe lean into approaching some other friends who he saw playing a game that he hadn't been included in previously, but now potentially could be.
Yeah, which is a good example of, in order to get through the struggle, you have to take some risk. And so maybe it felt a little risky for him to go up to these friends, and he needed some coaching because he was a little guy. He needed some coaching. I think that what we want parents to do, what I want parents to hear, is that as the school year is starting, you have to be communicating with the educators. And when they are talking about allowing a child to struggle, you're allowed to say, I totally agree with that. Let's make sure that we're creating productive struggle or supportive struggle, rather than avoidance, rather than this is too much for my kid, or rather than, in worst case scenario, which is what this post was saying that started this whole conversation, you are traumatizing my child. So that skill of differentiation. And it's really helpful to say to kids, directly to kids, I know that this feels like a struggle, and you can't see me. Ed can see me, but you guys listening can't see me. But I use my hands a lot. And to say, this is where we start, and I'm putting one hand over on one side, and this is where we end up, and I'm putting my other hand on the other side, as if I'm holding a big pair of cymbals. And all of this in the middle, this is all the learning and all the struggle, and I am right here with you. I can't do it for you. I get it. And I'm watching you do this, and I can see that it's hard, and I understand that. And we're still going to do it, because in order to get from here to here, we're going to have some struggle. Use examples in your kid's life. I talk about building reminder bridges. So going back and talking about past successes, using that success journal to say, remember when you started swimming lessons and you couldn't even put your head under the water, and now you jump off the high dive? Remember when you got that Lego set and we dumped all the pieces out onto the floor and it was a mess, and you looked at it and your eyes teared up? And then what did you do? You built it. Remember the time that, so over and over and over again, but again, talk 85% less, right? Don't just throw these nuggets out there. Letting your kids see examples, hear examples, experience examples of going from point A to point B, learning something, having that success, acquiring those skills, both the skills of being able to build the Lego and the skill of being able to tolerate the frustration, are key skills in virtually every area of our life, for sure. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.